Alright, it's day 172 of this Fall Gold Raspberry series. Things didn't go as I planned, as always, so that's why it's been a very long time since I've done an update. And I've been compiling footage here and there, but I haven't been really serious about gathering footage for this because everything ground to a standstill at some point, and I'm back in troubleshooting mode, although things went really well in the earlier episodes. So as you can see, there's so many of these offshoots growing out of the ground. So it seemed very promising at this point. All the foliage was lush. I did spray with some pyrethrins, and here you can see bark developing. It looks like everything's going right, and you can see a little bit of leaf burn on the edges. That'll happen if you spray it with anything other than rainwater, distilled water, etc. If you spray anything in any concentration, in my experience on leaves that are not succulent leaves, then that will happen. So as you can see, these are the raspberries. Some of the earlier ones fell off, I believe, globule by globule. So I think I'm going to harvest those and give them a taste. It's kind of a pity that they're growing on a smaller offshoot, because I was thinking if they grew on the larger one, maybe that could get more photosynthesis energy, more sugars to be sweeter and have more thorough development. So this pot is not very big. It's very easy to water. The surface of this pot is just crusted with cracked, dried out mango seed, and it's proven to be real fertile, but it also attracts bugs. But in this case, I don't think the bugs, such as fungus gnat larvae, are a big deal because they basically only eat the crust itself and probably help digest and break down through their excretions the organic matter to provide fertilization for the plant. In any case, it's not that big of a deal. I'm more worried about spider mites. If you've been following my growing series for the last 5 years, you'll know that I had some tangles with spider mites right from the start because their eggs or perhaps adults were already present in the potting mix. And then there was a period of time during which I sterilized all the potting mix and the problem went away. Alright, I just got one berry in here. These things fall apart quite easily. As you can see, there are these little globes or globules. And I just dropped that one on the ground. So here's another one. Give these a brief rinse. So they fall apart quite easily. That's actually not bad. It's pretty mild. Maybe they would be more sweet if they had those big leaves attached for longer to photosynthesize longer. But for now, that's it. That's the entire crop, the first crop, and it will probably be a few more weeks or months before we get a second crop. So that was one of the few instances in which I show my face on the channel. Generally, I'm dialed in on the subject matter to show you that instead of my face, unlike many other YouTube channels. So now I'm spraying some pyrethrin on all my plants, and I hope that will at least get rid of the fungus gnats for a while and all these other bugs like spider mites, which are not insects. They're a primitive sort of hybrid between spiders and mites. And as you can see, by day 203, that obviously didn't work. So people really fear chemicals and pesticides, but everything is a chemical. And pyrethrins, modern day analogs even, are very weak. So they come from chrysanthemum flowers naturally, and they do kill insects and other bugs on contact, although spider mites aren't even bugs. But I'm 100% sure that it was spider mites that did this. So there are no other exogenous reasons, and here I'm just using my trusty leverage durable shears, pruning shears. Well, actually they're not designed for pruning, but that's what I use them for, to cut all of these dead stalks away. So I don't know what's going to happen going forward. My instinct, my gut says that if I water this and wait a few weeks, everything's going to come back. So that's what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, all of this thorny dead foliage and stalks is really an eyesore for the neighbors and for myself. So I don't want to look at this. It serves no purpose. It's covered in spider mite webs and spider webs as well. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. And I'm going to cut this big stalk that's hanging over the balcony. It's a real pity because it was very beautiful in its prime. If you just look back to even the previous episode or a few episodes before that, it was quite the sight to behold, and it had really big leaves, and it's developed sort of a bark, although I don't know how much of that is just due to the entire thing browning due to dying off. So it's very thick and hard to cut through. I'm going to have to cut it into smaller pieces to fit into a garbage bag. Then I'll dispose of everything. So I don't have much going on my balcony right now, and as I said, I'm just going to water this and see if it makes a comeback. I'm pretty confident that it will, and I'm sure that there's perhaps a giant rhizome underneath, although how big is that, I don't know. If it were really big, I imagine it would have pushed all the potting mix and other organic matter that comprises this soil upwards. So it's day 207 with the sun shining on this mango crust and no foliage to shade anything. It just sort of looks like a barren, dried up landscape after a fire or something that's been clear cut. And as you can see, the pyrethrin spray devastated this population of spider mites, but the damage had already been done, and I'm sure many others survived and reproduced very quickly. And you can see all of these very disgusting spider mite corpses, as well as some entangled in webs, perhaps by their own making in the water tray or by spiders. So on day 228, we got some beautiful regrowth. It was very refreshing to see this, and everything looks fine except, well, I guess there are not really any exceptions. There's a main stem. There are these beautiful new spines, thorns developing, and I expect this to go very well. But as I alluded to in the beginning of the video, it was not meant to be. So on day 291, the Santa Ana winds were at it again. I'm only including footage of this at nighttime because it shows the development of the plant at that point. So it's more developed for sure, but it's quite stunted in its comeback. So it never quite got to the explosive growth that I had seen before. So on day 327, I decided I was going to try imidacloprid for the first time. It's a common insecticide. People sometimes sprinkle granules of this stuff into their indoor plants and get it in there, or on there at least, and that should supposedly kill off all the fungus gnat larvae. So this one is sort of a white gooey gel, but it dissolves very easily, and this product is not cheap. I think typically you can expect to spend maybe $15 to $20 on a bottle this size. So hopefully this from Bayer Advanced or Bio Advanced or whatever they're calling it is totally worth it. And I won't be using that much because just by following the instructions, you add about yay much and dissolve it in a certain amount of water. I didn't want to just add it to my plastic light green showering pail because I don't want to have that contaminated in cases where I don't intend to use it. I like to keep that completely clean with just distilled water that goes in there. I don't like to put fertilizers in that showering can. I just want it to have straight up water. So doing a little bit of mixing around, and then I'll do a wipe and clean everything up, but that seems like a good amount of tap water to dissolve everything in. I'm not going to splurge every single time and use distilled water if I don't have to. So I'll shake this up and distribute it among my plants, and hopefully by pouring a fraction of this into that little pot with my raspberry cutting, it'll stop all the spider mites because it provides systemic resistance it gets absorbed by the plant, and according to the label, it can take even up to weeks for the entire plant to acquire systemic resistance, and then anything that tries to drink the fluids from the cells or the stems will get poisoned. I'll be publishing an episode that's a standalone video detailing the results of applying imidacloprid this way to all of my pots. So I look forward to a great 2019. I may continue this series, but not for very long. I think at some point when it recovers, I'll just dig up the rhizome to show you what's going on down there.